Welcome to Press TV's Between the Headlines, broadcasting from London. I'm Afshin Ratazzi, and I'm here with three guests. Nick Dearden is the director of the Jubilee Debt Campaign, which demands the 100% cancellation of unpayable and unfair poor country debts. And also in the studio, Hugh Miles, author of a book on the television network Al Jazeera, and most recently, Playing Cards in Cairo, published by Abacus. And on the telephone from Paris, France, is the inimitable financial journalist Max Keiser of maxkeiser.com. On tonight's show, it's the global economic crisis that informs everything on this planet, and many are watching the latest attempts by President Obama's administration to curb the effects of so-called toxic debt. This, as a new Congressional Budget Office projection, shows the U.S. government facing a $9.3 trillion deficit over the next 10 years, 2.3 trillion more than previously forecast. And the country that spends more on weapons of mass destruction and just weapons in general than any other is the United States. And the war Obama has campaigned for continues to rage. The one in Afghanistan, where the president is now saying the United States needs an exit strategy. He's due to send in 17,000 more troops to add to the 36,000 already there. And all this as a former British SAS commander in Afghanistan said in the British papers on Saturday that Allied military operations in Afghanistan were, quotes, worthless. And all the British newspapers have given up on reporting anything from Gaza, still coping with the fallout of Israel's 22-day war. In the past few hours, the Egyptian government has stopped a flock of sheep from getting into Gaza. But why is the press so kind by omission to Egypt as it denies medical supplies to hospitals? 3 patients died over the weekend for want of medicine. And first, we want to hear from you. Join the debate in the usual ways via text message from anywhere in the world on, I think it appears there, +44 78 0000 8086. You can also drop us an email at any point during or after tonight's show and let us know whether you agreed or disagreed with the opinions expressed on this edition of Between the Headlines. That's to bth@presstv.co.uk. Well, let's begin with a story in the Financial Times. The fearsome become the fallen. After writing off more than $1,000 billion, $1 trillion, and struggling to raise fresh capital, lenders have seen their market value shrink to a fraction of the peak. There's a chart here saying that the top 4 banks in 1999, Citigroup, Bank of America, HSBC, Lloyds, TSB, well, they're not there anymore. It's now the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, China Construction Bank, Bank of China. JP Morgan Chase retains a position there. But on the line we have Max Keiser from maxkeiser.com. Max, this piece, share prices apparently have been surging on information coming from the Obama administration about their success at isolating toxic debt. But I suppose charts like this in the Financial Times, which show what a massive drop has occurred, are illuminating something deeper?
Yeah, sure, Afshin. The global financial picture, as we pointed out before, is like a giant cotton candy cone of spun assets and spun derivative products, and it looked quite impressive. It looked like there was a lot going on there. But when the music stopped back in the summer of 2007 and the banks had to declare what, in fact, they had on their balance sheet, it turns out that they were missing about $60 trillion or more. And now we're starting to see the results of that come in. And another effect is that those countries that have been saving money, like China, of course, are better capitalized to go forward than those countries that have been spending money and borrowing and spending, such as in the UK. Of course, the UK is in worse position than in America, because America at least has the advantage of having the world reserve currency, whereas the British pound is really going to go the way of the Icelandic krona.
And it's certainly been dropping over the past few months. Nick Dearden, you've worked on debt, but the debt of very poor countries. This is no longer between the headlines. This is headline news, these kinds of topics. What do you think we're learning from all the articles? Almost some of them just grabbing at any new idea, hoping to save capitalism, as it were.
I think we're learning an awful lot in exactly the same way people did in the 1930s, when ordinary people began to wake up to how the world was controlled by these global financial institutions that they had no power over, no accountability towards. I mean, we say we live in a democracy, but actually the real things that drive our livelihoods and our welfare, we have no control over whatsoever. And one of the interesting things that I'm picking up recently, just within the last few months, is a lot of critique of the repeal of this thing called the Glass-Steagall Act, which was first passed in the 1930s to prevent investment banks and retail banks doing each other's business. And Clinton repealed this in the early 90s, and nobody thought any more about it until the last few months. And all of a sudden people have realized, actually, the banks that we trust as ordinary citizens to control, to hold our money and keep it safe, shouldn't be going off and investing in all manner of financial derivative products that they don't understand themselves, that we certainly don't understand. But, you know, we're living in an economy where the main form of making money comes not from production, but from making money in and of itself. Money makes money and generates money. And I think hopefully people are waking up to the fact that that's not a sustainable, equitable, just way of running the world anymore.
Hugh Miles, people often talk about how it's George W. Bush, but of course Obama has many of the Clinton people in. But you've been writing about the developing world. How do you see a country like Egypt, countries in the Persian Gulf, reacting to what's happening in the United States, in Europe? It's affecting them?
Well, some of the countries have been badly affected. I mean, Dubai is really been punished by the credit crunch, and the bubble has finally burst in Dubai, and it's a very sad story there. I mean, the airport is full of cars just dumped by migrant workers on the way out the country. They leave their keys in the ignition and they just get on a plane one way, go home. And, you know, that's been the story across a lot of the Gulf. Kuwait is in total chaos. But other countries have fared better. I mean, funnily enough, Egypt has not been so badly hit so far.
A country aided by the United States.
Yeah, although, but I mean, it's not out of the woods by any means, because of course, you know, America might start cutting its aid to Egypt, and you know, it might just take another